Tonight, government shutdown in 2025 as Finance Minister fails to present budget to cater for state expenditure in first quarter of next year.
Proceed to adjourn the sittings of this meeting till the 2nd of January 2025.
We have details as minority and majority leaders trade blames over the standoff.
The NPP government has failed to comply with Article 180 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana to present the expenditure in advance of appropriation.
It is rather the lawless NDC minority who have done all they can to obstruct government business.
We have the latest with public sector salaries in limbo. Also tonight, opposition NDC braces for a fight over cost order to the Electoral Commission to recollect the parliamentary results in 6 constituencies.
Now, with respect, the judge said the docket was brought to him yesterday evening. You all heard him. And we said, okay, if that's the case, watch the video of the declarations. Now, what is and should be placed on record? That the Electoral Commission never filed any affidavit in opposition.
We have the latest on the day the court also ordered the IGP to provide security for the recollation, even as civil society flags fresh plot to remove the IGP before the incoming NDC administration takes over. And Top Story is always brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies, holy insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. It's official. There will be a government shutdown at the start of the new year. Today was the final day for the Finance Minister, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, to present the expenditure in advance of appropriation that would have averted a shutdown and ensured that public sector workers are paid. Well, the Finance Minister failed to show up, meaning the salaries of nearly 700,000 public sector workers is now in jeopardy. I have the very latest for you on this particular story. I want to stay for that, but right now I want to go to the courts where the NDC is bracing itself for a fight over the High Court's decision to order the Electoral Commission to recollect the parliamentary results in 6 constituencies. The decision comes after weeks of uncertainty surrounding the outcome of the December 7 polls in these affected constituencies. My colleague Kennedy J.C. Watson calling joins me in the studio with more. These constituencies we are talking about, which constituencies are these, but also give us a context to this decision by the court today.
So we're talking about Ablekuma North, Okaiko Central, Tema Central, Nsawam, Adwejiri, Techiman South, and Ahafwano North. These constituencies, the 6 parliamentary candidates of the governing New Patriotic Party filed a suit at the court, and they were demanding 2 things. The first one is that they want the court to order the Electoral Commission to recollate the results in these constituencies. The second one is that they're calling on the court to also order the Ghana Police Service through its boss, the Inspector General of Police, to provide maximum security at these collation centers when these are done. Now, their issues were that when some of these collations were done, the declarations, some of the EC officials did these declarations under Durex. Some of them also, they have the polling stations, not all of the polling stations were available, and these declarations were done. They cited incidents of about 70% of the results just coming in, and then the EC officials were forced to declare the results, and the judge deemed all of these illegal, because you cannot declare the parliamentary results when all the results from the entire polling stations have not come to pass, because the parliamentary system is first past the post. So even the results from one polling station can change everything. That is why the judge deemed it fit to order the Electoral Commission to recollate the results in these constituencies, and also the Ghana Police Service to provide for all of these.
And particularly to the IGP. And this is coming on a day when we've heard civil society flagging another plot to remove the IGP. We'll get into that pretty shortly. We'll be speaking to Kofi Bentel, who is the Vice President of the Money Africa, who will join us pretty shortly on that. But let's stay on this. I know the NDC in court today, they've been very livid about the outcome of the processes today.
Yes, and a leading member of the legal team, Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, is particularly unhappy about this because they filed for a rejoinder to join the case, but it was quashed by the court. And then after the declaration, the member said that he is particularly unhappy with the verdict that came out.
This is a situation where my friend Gary Nimaku had brought an injunction, a mandamus application. Now, when we became aware of the mandamus application, clearly it was to do something that will affect some constituencies. So we applied for a joinder. This morning, when the judge decided that the application be heard, we brought to his notice that this is an application for joinder. So therefore, permit us to be joined so that if there is anything that we need to do, we can bring it to your attention. We also drew his attention to the fact that there was a pending substantive judicial review application. The persons who applied to join, and so therefore you should allow for the joinder to be done. You all watched the judge say that he will not do the joinder. In fact, even though he himself requested for a copy of the joinder, he perused it and said now it has come to his attention. He still said they should go ahead and move their mandamus application, and now proceeded to say that declaration that have been made already, they should go ahead and recollate the results in those places.
We note that he made it clear in relation to Sawam, Adwejri, Abikumanov. But in relation to the others, we didn't hear him make any point.
In fact, you appreciate that we made him aware. And in fact, he himself took the six copies of the joinder application and went through each one of them. So he is fully aware that there were joinder applications pending. But he still said, you go ahead and give his decision.
Key question. So what's the NDC's next move? We'll get clarity on that pretty shortly. But for the candidates affected, I'm talking about from the NDC side, this is a devastating blow.
Indeed, and then two candidates were in court today, the parliamentary candidate for Tema Central, Ebi Bright, and also the parliamentary candidate for Okaikwe Central, Sadiq Adam, Baba Sadiq. They're saying that they're really not happy with the situation, but they will consult the party on the way forward.
Well, I think that our legal director has explained it in detail, and he's giving you an indication of the next line of actions that the party will take here.
How do you feel at this particular point in time?
Well, it was quite interesting. We made some very good arguments relative to the facts. As was detailed by our Director of Elections, the judgment is very interesting. However, we are minded to regroup as a party. The next line of actions will be detailed by the party, and then we know what to do related to it.
Are you stronger than before?
I've always been stronger. I've always been confident that any process would confirm or affirm the fact that we duly won the Okaikwe Central constituency. We have been very confident from the start, from the get-go, regarding the fact that we won and the fact that we have all the necessary documentation to back it.
Well, I'll say that a lot of things have been said about the things that go on in our society. Sometimes you can't really appreciate them until you're at the center of them or involved in them. So I'd say today was quite an experience. I mean, you think that language and the law is a matter of logic. Sometimes you see it misplaced in a very embarrassing way.
That there are two of the affected candidates in question for the NDC, but John Dramani Mahama, the incoming president, the president-elect, has also been taking on the Electoral Commission, although we know now that the Electoral Commission is yet to fix a date for the recollection. They have the all clear now on the orders of the court to proceed. John Mahama isn't happy.
There are a few outstanding issues arising from the election. As you are aware, 9 constituencies are in dispute, and we I think that the Electoral Commission should act in a principled manner. You cannot change the rules when it suits you and apply different rules when different circumstances exist. There was a particular case in 2020, and the Electoral Commission came out clearly that if a declaration had been made, it was not the duty of the Electoral Commission to adjudicate it. The courts were the right place to go. And so if a declaration has been made, it doesn't matter under what circumstance. They are saying that somewhere under duress. In the case of Techiman South, it was under duress. There were soldiers in the collation room. There was chaos in the collation room when the declaration was made. And the same arguments were passed that, there should be a recollation. And the Electoral Commission said, no, there can't be any recollation once a declaration has been made. In the same circumstances, declarations have been made. If people have a grievance, they must go to the courts and redress those grievances there. We don't think that the goalpost should be shifted depending on who is at the other end of the stick. There's one particular case in which there was no declaration. We can understand that. And so the Electoral Commission has to make a determination what happens. Is there going to be a rerun? How are they going to be able to collate those results? And so we think that there must be fairness and justice in everything that we do. And so that's a concern we have, that those issues will be resolved as quickly as possible so that we know what the final outcome of the election is.
And that's John Dramani Mahama there speaking shortly before the court pronounces verdict on the subject. I want to bring in Dr. Kweku Ajimambudu. He is the counsel for the aggrieved MPP candidates who filed this particular case. He joins us on the line right now. Thanks, Doc, for your time here on Top Story. Have you got any clarity on the back of the court's decision today when the recollation will happen?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. Good evening to your listeners. I think it's a pretty simple thing, as your reporter rightly pointed out. The applications that were before the court were for judicial review in the form of mandamus to compel, and mandamus is one of the ways in which the High Court is able to enforce its orders. And the matter is simple. Elections, the Electoral Commission is the body that has been established to conduct elections in Ghana. It's a creature of the Constitution, it's a creature of statute, and they have public duties to perform. And those public duties, to the extent that those public duties have not been performed as a result of disruptions or whatever the circumstances are, the court can compel the Electoral Commission on the application of an interested party to do its public duty, which is the results of the election in a particular constituency, and declare the winners of that particular parliamentary election. And that's basically what these applications were in relation to. It's a straightforward matter. There isn't any confusion about this.
When will the recollation happen on the back of these orders by the court?
I can tell you when the collation will happen. Because the order was given today, directed at the Electoral Commission to do its public duty. The Inspector General of Police to also provide armed security for the purposes of securing the space where the collation will be done, because of the instances that we've seen where collation has been disrupted. And let's get this point clear. The Electoral Commission has to do its job. And to the extent that there are illegalities in terms of the processes leading towards any determination of a parliamentary election in a particular constituency, the Electoral Commission itself has come out to say that it would not uphold any such things. And the court basically said today that the court does not exist to condone illegalities. So you can't say that because something has happened, once it has happened, it's happened, automatically the results of the election are determined, and then the Electoral Commission has to gazette it, and then you would have to go by way of election petition. That is not what the law is. The courts do not condone illegalities. So the courts will not sit down in the face of the Electoral Commission itself saying that in these constituencies, the rules set out in CI 127 clearly providing for how parliamentary elections must be done in terms of the results, the collation from the various polling stations, and then the final results, which will go on the summary sheet and all that. It hasn't been complied with then you turn around and say that nonetheless we should go ahead, and then if anyone is affected by it, then you should go by way of.
The confusion though, and this has nothing to do with you because of course it's the Electoral Commission, though, is that in one instance the Electoral Commission says we will not accept the declaration of the results because our officer who was in charge, the returning officer, did not use the entire complement of results from the polling stations, and so they will not be rejected, and some of them will happen under duress. And yet, in a case like Suhum, there were 6 outstanding polling station results that did not come in, but a declaration was made, and the Electoral Commission accepted that. That is what creates the confusion around what appears to be double standards here, and application of a rule that then you heard the incoming president say must be fairly applied across the board.
Well, I can't speak to what you are saying, but I can only speak to the applications for which we were in court this morning, where no declarations have been done to the best of our knowledge, and the facts speak for themselves. And so if an interested party, and interested in the parliamentary candidates are the interested parties, believe that the processes have not been complied with, collation has been suspended because some unknown persons attack these collation centers, and these are all in the public domain. Everybody can see that. It was they were invited to come the next day or the next few days or something for another collation exercise. It was disrupted once again, and so at that point, what are you supposed to do? At that point, you demand that the right thing is done. And to the extent that the Electoral Commission has neglected to, refused, or failed to collate the results in those particular constituencies, the interested parties have every right to go to court to seek a mandamus to compel the Electoral Commission to do its work. And the Commission was not opposed to this application because they also want to do their work, and they are being prevented from doing their work.
Yeah, and they've expressed same in the press conference prior. Thank you very much, Dr. Kweku Ajimanbedu. The Electoral Commission obviously is yet to clarify when the recollation will happen. Once we get that, we'll bring that to you. But the NDC is weighing its options. We'll get clarity from them also tonight. But also in court today, the judge also ordered the IGP to provide armed security for the recollation that he had ordered. And this is happening on the day when civil society had flagged the plot to remove the IGP. Is it a coincidence that this is happening at this same time? I want to bring in one man who flagged this. Kofi Bentel is a private legal practitioner. You know him. He's also the vice president of Imani Africa. Joins us on the line right now. Kofi, I'm grateful that you could join me on this matter. The IGP, obviously, we've seen the work that has happened over the period, and there are many people in the political circles who are unhappy with him. You flagged what you believe to be another plot to remove him. What more do you know about this, and where is this coming from?
Oh, good evening. Yes, we have our sources of information, so I'm not going to discuss that much. But the matter is that we are all hearing of some sort of plot or decision or some sort of underhand dealing, all aimed at removing the present IG from his office. It's not the first time we've had these kinds of problems, and I just had to put it out there because to send a message that, look, some of these lawless acts must stop. Look, over the years, some of these things have been done, and somehow let them, go. We've just not said much about them because we thought it was lawful for certain presidents to remove heads of security simply because they are in the office of the president. I, for one, since Professor Atamil's time, have been speaking and discussing making the security heads independent of politicians because that works to secure our state. Now, over the years, many of us thought it would take a constitutional review. But as we studied the issue, we came to a firm conclusion that it actually does not take a constitutional review, and that our laws presently provide sufficient security for security heads, the IG, heads of immigration, heads of fire service, and those kinds of institutions. And so these suggestions that a certain president can remove the IG because he's not happy with something he's done, it's unlawful. I don't want to go into the reasons and whatever it is. The fundamental fact is that no sitting president, per our constitution and the service regulations of the security services, may remove any service head. Even, just indulge me, I'm going to read Article 191 of the Constitution. Article 191 says, a member of the public services of Ghana shall not, 1, be victimized or discriminated against for having discharged his duties faithfully in accordance with this Constitution, or 2, be dismissed or removed from office or reduced in rank. Rank is with reference to institutions like the police, or otherwise punished without just cause. What it means is that nobody can victimize or punish or dismiss or do anything against any ranked officer without just cause. And if you read further, it will tell you that that just cause must be submitted to due process, and that person must be given a fair hearing across that process. If he is found guilty, then he may be removed. The short of this matter is that you can't ask the head of fire service to proceed on leave. You can't ask the head of immigration to go on leave. You cannot appoint the sitting IGP as an ambassador to another country or ask him to go on leave or anything. They've done it in the past. It is wrong. That is why Imani went to court, not now, way back April, May. And we put it before the Supreme Court that we need a clear declaration of this matter to the effect that per Article 191 and the other laws, including, for instance, the service regulations of the Ghana Police Service, nobody may ask the IGP to go on leave or to be fired or any such thing.
And that begs the question, whilst this case is in court, can the president or this government remove the IGP before the case is decided?
No, they can't. Unfortunately, I have to explain. That's why I'm waxing long. But they cannot, because the matter is presently before court. Any attempt to move the IG should be resisted. In that, if I was advising the IG, I would tell him that he should not take or obey any such unlawful order. And if anybody has anything against him, that person should submit it to due process. But he should remain in office until that due process finds its end. In other words, any attempt to remove the present IG is unlawful. As for the reasons, we all know from when he was run through Parliament and everything, we all know. I can tell you, Evans, that any objective observer will tell you that in a country where we have 40,000 police stations and 275 constituencies, in an election this tense, which has been lost by the incumbent, this IG has done an absolutely fantastic work. Only 9 constituencies are outstanding. And the police did all of this without firing one shot. Look at all the things that happen across this country. We are in peace and going about our daily duties. And they did it without firing a shot. What else do people want to see before they know that this IG has done his job and done it well? Anybody who thinks that for any reason they want to remove him because it is politically expedient is wrong in law. And that person must be resisted, not by the IG, but by all of us. And by the way, Evans, it's not just against this government. We all need to be clear in our minds that as long as that matter remains in the Supreme Court, not even the incoming government should try and remove any security head. Those who are on retirement and have been appointed are a different case. They can be removed any day. But those who are within their ranks and they are doing their job regularly, not appointed after retirement or anything irregular, should be left there. Let the process take its course. If you have a cause against them, please use due process. We need to do this to stabilize our state. We cannot allow the politicians to be just playing ball with us back and forth every time. So in short, we've heard the rumors, but please, as a country, it is time we all rise up and make sure that the politicians will do right and not just do what they want simply because they are in power.
Mr. Bento, thank you very much. Is the Vice President of Imani Africa on that plot that civil society has been talking about to remove the IGP. I want to stay with this court case that also ordered the IGP to provide armed security for the recollation, because Eduji Tamaklo is the counsel for the NDC parliamentary candidates who were in court today and joins us on the line right now. Mr. Tamaklo, grateful that you could join me. We've heard your issues with the decision of the court today, as you articulated it to the press on the premises of the court. But question is, have you decided your next move yet?
Yes, I can confirm that we have invoked the supervisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court relative to the orders made by the High Court this morning, and also applied for an order to stay the execution of the orders against the IDP and then the EC. I can also say that we have duly filed and served it on the IGP, who is supposed to provide security for those exercises. That I can confirm.
So that application, this is an application to stay.
That is so.
Okay. Has it been granted, and does it, in effect, stay, or you have to
I
wait
do not want to. The IGP has a team of lawyers. They will advise what to do.
But at least it's your expectation that the IGP and the Electoral Commission will wait for the outcome of that substantive matter that you've taken out?
There are two processes before the Supreme Court, the Court of the Land. The IGP and his office have been duly served.
Have you served the Electoral Commission, though?
Well, I'm sure the bailiff also should be, but I can confirm that of the IGP.
And we were asking earlier your colleague on the other side if they've been told by the EC when the recollation would happen. I mean, this could happen any time.
The IGP is the one who is supposed to provide security, and he has been served with judicial processes. I'm sure his lawyers advise him what he to do.
In other words, if the EC can proceed without the security, you don't mind?
The IGP has been served.
But the EC can't do it without the IGP's protection, as in providing men for them.
That is what I'm saying, that the IGP has been served.
LG, thank you very much.
Evans, maybe this will be our last conversation. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too. And that is LG Tamaklo. They're talking to me about the decision that they've taken today to file the process to stay the execution of the order of the court, specifically, he says, to the IGP. The IGP was ordered today to provide armed security for the recollation. They have served him now with that process, and it is expectation that the IGP's lawyers will advise him accordingly. And that is definitely one of the stories you're watching as it unfolds with the cases of the 6 constituencies still contested on the back of the 2024 elections. You know what else happened as far as the elections is concerned? It also left a situation in Parliament where confusion is now the order of the day over the mini budget, because the MPs returned from that battle. I'm talking about the elections. Many of them lost. The finance minister obviously won his seat, but he hasn't been to the House to present the mini budget. And what that means is there is a shutdown now that we can confirm will happen in the new year, because it was the final day today for the finance minister, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, to present the expenditure in advance of appropriation that would have averted a shutdown and ensured that public sector workers are paid. Well, the finance minister failed to show up, meaning the salaries of nearly 700,000 public sector workers is now in jeopardy. We'll bring you the happenings in Parliament pretty shortly. The Speaker of Parliament adjourned this, and my colleague Kweku Asante is here with me. He's been in Parliament today. So the House has been adjourned. The Finance Minister did not show. When is Parliament returning?
The House is returning on the 2nd of January. And in fact, That was the only order of business. The Minister of Finance, he was expected to present this the mini budget. He did not show up, as he hasn't showed up since Monday to deliver this important document to the House. And so when the House corrected the votes and proceedings that did all other outstanding issues having to do with documentations of the past, the only thing left for the Speaker of Parliament to have done was to adjourn the House, because also there was no agreement in terms of the other business that must be transacted, Evans.
Okay, so the NDC side isn't happy with this because they will have to carry that burden in the new year when their side is sworn in as a new government. What's Ato forcing? What has he been saying? He's a minority leader.
Well, they have been resisting any attempt in particular to get to the invitation from the NPP side was that give us $350 million worth of tax waivers, give us some loans, the outstanding ones, give us the Supreme Court nominees, approve that for us and we can get to the mini budget. He did not buy together with his colleagues in leadership. And so today, when they also did not have any agreement at the pre-sitting meeting and the Speaker of Parliament decided that he was going to adjourn, he addressed the news conference right afterwards and said that this is on the head of the President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as well as the Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam.
The NPP government has failed to comply with Article 180 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana to present the expenditure in advance of appropriation. In the spirit of good transition, it is expected that the outgoing President, acting pursuant to Article 180 of the Constitution, would have acted in good faith and bring before this Parliament a proposal for expenditure to cater for the first quarter of the year 2025. This was very important because the Appropriation Act for 2025 will not come into force on 1st of January 2025. Sadly, President Akufo-Addo planned to leave the public service uncatered for in the first quarter of the year 2025.
So concerns therefore the NDC minority soon to become majority in 2025. What about the majority side, the current majority side? Their position over the last few days has been, well, you either play ball or
you don't get this.
You won't get this also. Is this still their position?
Well, that is their position to a certain extent. Alexander Afenyo-Markin, the majority leader, says if the House resumes on 2nd, they will consider putting this on the table for that to be done. But he blames all of this on what he says is quote-unquote lawless NDC because they have refused to actually give in to some of their demands regarding the tax waivers and all these issues. He says when the Ghanaian public sector workers do not get their salaries at the end of January, if this stretches up until that point, the person who should be blamed are the NDC MPs.
The NDC minority has done all it can to frustrate government business. In Parliament, the procedure when a matter is introduced is to lay the paper, a referral made to a committee, and when the committee is done with its report, same is presented, debated, and a decision taken. The strategy of the NDC has been that in spite of all these procedures, they will not allow any paper to even be laid. Neither will they allow a report of a committee to even be tabled, debated, and all that. We've had Supreme Court nominees whose vetting Parliament has concluded, and we are to table that report for motion to be taken on. They say they won't even allow the all-important free SHS bill. They again say they won't allow that to also be laid, let alone for the committee to take it for the bill to be considered. As well as the $250 million facility from the World Bank to support the financial sector. We've also had the 1D1F, where they themselves brought proposals to us, and government side accepted those proposals, which proposals led to the raw materials components being taken out, resulting in huge savings, and as a result, the committee completed its work Again, the NDC lawless minority will not allow the report to be taken. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, whom we've all relied on to protect us, could not assure government the majority, could not assure majority of controlling the NDC lawlessness. We were opposed to this adjournment, but he is the speaker. Now there are one major outstanding matter: the expenditure in advance of appropriation. In other words, the expenditure in account. To break it down, because the budget for 2024 ends on 31st December, there is a need for us to approve some expenditure on account until the new government comes out with its budget. We want to tell the people of Ghana that we as Democrats are ever ready to proceed to do this expenditure on account. There is no way we will ambush our own fortunes as a nation. It is rather the lawless NDC who have done all they can to obstruct government business. And they do not even care about the effect of our inability to undertake this constitutional obligation.
And Kuku, we are now learning about a strategy that the incoming administration has thought through to salvage the situation somewhat in 2025.
Yes, according to the minority leader, as soon as John Dramani Mahama is sworn in on the 7th of January, the vice president will be authorized. That is, if she's sworn in, when she's sworn in, Professor Nana Jinopoko-Agyeman will present this 68.1 billion Ghana cedi that will keep the government open between 1st January and 31st March. And she will put that before Parliament, and the Parliament of Ghana is constituted in the 9th Parliament will immediately get to business on that.
Let me give assurance to the people of Ghana and all stakeholders that the NDC government that will take office on the 7th of January 2025 will act with dispatch to cater for expenditure for the first quarter of the year 2025. There's no cause for alarm, ladies and gentlemen. Even though there will be no finance minister on the 7th of January 2025, the vice president can present to this house the expenditure in advance of appropriation anytime after swearing in on the 7th of January 2025. And this house will be properly constituted to expedite the approval of the same expenditure in advance of appropriation. While we are very disappointed about this development, we want to caution the outgoing Akufo-Addo-Bawumia government that they will be responsible for all unmet commitment and obligation of state from the 1st of January to the 7th of January 2025.
And as you know, the salaries of nearly 700,000 public sector workers is now in limbo on the back of the failure of the finance minister to present this budget, the expenditure in advance of appropriation. That will now not happen. And as you've just heard there, the incoming government will now have to find a way to resolve this immediately. Business. One reacting to this outcome. I want to bring in Dr. Kwabena Otu. He's a Deputy Secretary General at the Trades Union Congress. Joins us on the line right now. Dr. Otu, thanks for your time here on Top Story. I'm pretty sure you've heard the news. How is the TUC and or workers in the public sector responding and reacting to it?
Good evening, and thanks for having me. So I heard the news, you are right. But I'm not too sure there's any cause for alarm, as the current minority just stated. I mean, the expenditure in advance of appropriation is there in the ministry. And once the president is sworn in, he can appoint anybody as his representative in the ministry to proceed to Parliament and present those things. And between the 7th of January and about 20th, 25th of January, when those salaries have to be paid, I think that the incoming government has enough time and enough room to be able to advance such appropriation and pay workers. we do not really think that anybody should have an excuse because of what is happening to say that workers will not be paid. And thankfully, the incoming government has a super majority. So really, we do not think that there's any cause for alarm.
What then do you say about this could have been resolved today? In fact, could have been resolved on Monday. What do you say about the current government's failure to do this ahead of next year?
I wouldn't want to comment on that. We all know the politics, the partisanship that has more or less paralyzed this parliament. And we are thankful to Ghanaians that at least in the coming parliament, we have a clear majority. And I think that this country should not go through what we have gone through with the 8th parliament. The politics, the TUC is not interested in that. What we are interested in is that on the come January, end of January, workers of Ghana must be paid. And we are clear in our minds that the state apparatus working with the incoming administration should be able to make payments for salaries and other state statutory obligations at the end of January. We really don't think that there's much cause for alarm.
I take it then that you are completely reassured by what you heard from Dr. Kesla Tofose.
We are. And we will work with them, we will support them to make sure that the conduct of state affairs do not suffer. Because if it does, it's not only the politicians may not even suffer. It's the ordinary Ghanaian workers who will suffer. So we are completely assured on that.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Kwabena, who is the Deputy Secretary General, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you too, Doctor. Great talking to you. And so yes, if you're in the public sector, well, you just heard that from the TUC. They are calm, reassured on the back of the strategy we've just had there, articulated by the minority leader. We expect now that on the midnight of the 6th into the 7th, when the new parliament is sworn in,
that is if there is money for parliament itself to sit.
Yes. They will have to sit. And once the new new parliament is sworn in, and in the morning of the 7th, once John Dramani Mahama is sworn in with the vice, and they are sworn in Parliament. Parliament, except that the Independence Square is turned into Parliament.
Yes.
And so the Speaker will have to now say, well, Independence Square will be the venue for their sitting. So they are sworn in before their representatives. So all they need to do, right from the swearing in,
come back.
They drive, a short drive to the Parliament House, by which time possibly the proper Parliament House building would have been completed in terms of renovation.
In fact, it's done. They have actually moved in there today.
So the first order of business, they move from Independence Square straight to the Parliament House, the floor, and then the Vice President, Professor Jana Opoku-Agyemang, then presents this mini budget.
The Speaker spoke yesterday and said they can do this in 1 day maximum if they get that.
Yes, and a certificate of urgency possibly.
Yes.
Quickly it's done, dusted. The next day money is available. And that's why the organized labor say they are not worried at all. They're reassured. And this is all coming on the back of the elections. And coming up on Ghana Connect is something very related. What are you talking about, Kweku?
Well, John Dramani Mahama was elected with such an overwhelming support from the Ghanaian people. Like you heard the TUC boss did say, he has a great majority in Parliament, a lot of expectation. In fact, John Mahama himself has outlined what he says is 120-day vision, and a lot of people are biting into that, asking questions. What exactly are you going to do? There's oral, become a big conversation this week. So we're engaging the public of the Ghanaian people, their sentiment that they are sharing. What do they expect of the incoming government once it's sworn in?
You want to stay for that? Ghanaians home and abroad are connecting on this right after this break.